Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Happy Tuesday. Hi everyone. Our quarterback is fine, I think, everyone. Hi everyone. Hi everyone.
Yeah, fine. Fine's the word I would use. Week to week is, not it's not the worst injury in the world.
Yeah. 5-2, pretty good.
It's
Not the
yeah,
worst record in the league.
that's right.
Let's see. Jayden is week to week. Okay, this is a tough one. I don't know what that means. I wish I knew what that meant. I don't know what it means. The staff remains too new to speak Dan Quinn's language yet. When asked specifically what is actually wrong with him, he gave a really good professional non-answer to that. We don't know if he fractured a ribs. We don't know if it's a cartilage injury. We don't know if it's just a bruise. We don't know. He was asked twice specifically what it was and wouldn't answer it, and did it in a very nice roundabout way and just gave you the answer he's going to give you. So I've learned with Quinn, he will respectfully, he won't pull guys, I'm not telling you. He will put together a nice, eloquent non-answer for you, and you just have to understand, I heard you. I'm not going to tell you. That's it. So without that specific knowledge, I can't tell you how long this really is. I saw his mom, Jayden's mom, tweet that he's fine. Again, not enough information. Not enough information. He's fine. Yes, he's fine. Is he playing the Bears? Answer that question to me. And then because it's Tuesday, they don't practice till tomorrow. So, until I see him out there taking snaps, or practicing, I don't know. And, typically when I hear day to day, I feel good about it. When I hear week to week, typically that's not a good sign that he's playing in the near future. But as Quinn put it, and it's, the one piece of information you need to know, if he was going to miss any significant time, they would have put him on IR, because you could put people on IR for 4 weeks. They didn't do that. Will he play this week? Frankly, I don't know.
I think I landed on this by the end of my show yesterday, and that was, if they were playing for the division next week or playing a playoff game next week, I think Jayden would be gutting it out to play. But because it's the regular season, because it's, I don't want to say it's the Bears, because it's the regular season and we're in the middle of the regular season and nothing's really being played for at this moment, they're going to be cautious. And in fact, I bet you they're going to be overly cautious, because guess what they've done with every player this year? They've been overly cautious with all of them. It hasn't just been Jayden. B-Rob, they were overly cautious with. Mariota, they were overly cautious with. They have let guys fully recover and not let them rush back. I just think this is actually the kind of the new regime and how they talk. But if this was the Cowboys for the division next week or a playoff game, I'm betting number 5 is suiting up, whether the coach liked it or not.
Yes, I agree. If this is December and everything's on the line, I will not push back, but just point out that the Bears are 4-2. And I'm going to get to some of the other things that are happening in the NFC, because what happened to the Buccaneers last night was terrible. Not just the loss, but the people that they lost. And it looks like Godwin's injury looks really bad. And the Niners are now 2 more stars, out for indefinite periods of time, and Ayuk probably out for the year. Look at the landscape of this conference all of a sudden. It is so wide open. And I would point to this weekend and go, these could potentially both be playoff teams. And if both of them are in the same boat, where they're kind of looking up at the teams that they need to chase to get to be a division winner, Washington is staring at Philadelphia. Those games we are heading towards, those games are going to be huge really soon. For the Bears, their division is turned out to be the best in football, at least for the first half of the season. And I still wouldn't pick them as the favorite over Detroit or Green Bay. In the same way, I would say, I love how Washington's playing. I think they're playing better than Philadelphia, but until they surpass them by playing them, Philadelphia is the favorite. So both of these teams' paths to me still remain, maybe Washington's is more to win their division, but both realistically feel like wild card. Well, this is a big game then this weekend, because it's a head-to-head matchup with 2 teams that very easily could be in the playoffs. So I agree with you. It's week 8, and I don't want to freak out. And if this game was week 16, might be treating it a little bit differently. But this head-to-head thing with them could be a really, really, really big deal. This isn't the Panthers this weekend. This is a really big deal. So they have to think about that. We're at a point now where we have to start thinking a little differently. Like, I think all along the whole thing is, hey, this is the beginning of something. It's great that it's going this way. Let's try to win now, but we're really trying to build something sustainable for the future. Well, like they could win the division this year, but it starts and ends with beating NFC teams, and especially ones that could be in their way in January.
No, I agree. It's definitely can we use an old one? It's interesting and important with the Bears, I guess.
That's this one. Yeah.
is what I would say. My guess here, though, is they're not even looking at that. I don't think you can look at that at this point in the season. I think they're looking at it as it's just week 8. We can't risk this guy getting any more hurt than he is, not to mention, too.
And I would not argue with that for a second. Like, I would rather, like, they did right by B-Rob. They didn't have to not play him a week ago. I found out, because you hear knee injury and you think the worst. It wasn't that. And it wasn't one of those things where they were worried about him severely injuring himself. It was a maintenance situation. And so he could have played, probably not to his, ability, and he could have exacerbated the problem that he had. And now you're talking about maintaining it week to week to week. They took a week off. They took a loss. I don't know. I said this after the game. I don't know whether he would have made a difference in this one anyway, because I think they were throwing the ball a lot against the Ravens no matter what. Like, maybe in the red zone he would have, but I don't see it, but they got him back and look how he looked. So it's possible they will think about this with Jayden this week, albeit I think this is a very different opponent than the one that they played last week, because I think it was easy at halftime to go, he's not coming back out here. I don't know about this week coming up.
No, that's what I was going to kind of weigh in with the Bears too. Like, the way the Bears offense is going lately, if you're going to win this game, you have to be in a shootout, most likely. I don't really have all the faith in the world that the defense can stop all of their weapons. I think there's a chance, don't get me wrong, but I just look at that opponent and go, if you're going to beat them, it's going to be through a shootout. Jayden's going to have to do that. It also means Jayden is going to go full hero ball at some point, because that's just what he does. I'm not saying he's going to take a bad slide, but he's going to take off running at some point. Do you want to take that risk? That's what they're going to have to weigh in on this.
Yes. Week. So here's the big question, because they are calling it week to week, and then come tomorrow, the quarterback talks to the media, and it doesn't mean that it's definitively, that's the definitive answer, but it'll be interesting to see if Jayden is the one who takes the questions, honestly, tomorrow, because that would lead you to believe that he's going to be there by the end of the week. And if not, if Mariota does, which is I suspect will happen, just to keep intrigue on the Bears, he takes the questions. He's the starter today. We'll see what happens by the end of the week. I think it does beg this question, because I think everyone saw it happen against the Panthers and went, oh, it's still wide open to them. They can do whatever they want. It just kept humming. They scored 30 points. He ran the same zone read stuff. He actually ran the ball 11 times. I don't remember it that way, but he did. A lot of it was scrambles. Same thing like in the first game that Jayden had with Tampa. A lot of it was scrambles. There were a few designed runs, but not a lot of them. And but it does beg this question against a much better defense that's healthy, not like Carolina's, one with a legitimate pass rush here. Does the O change under Mariota if they have to go this direction this week? And I would argue the answer is yes. And I know that they've gotten into, they're right now this year, I never saw this one coming. They're the best up-tempo team in the NFL. And I think it's been a big part of the success is they went to this early in the preseason. They told us in the preseason games they were going to practice it and do it. They started doing it. I didn't realize it was going to become the norm of their offense. And it's against the grain, because most teams aren't doing that anymore. They're the one that's doing it a lot. And they're doing it a lot with Jayden, which I think, says a lot about his maturity and his growth and all that stuff. The assumption that they're going to be able to do this with Mariota, I think we need to be careful about that one, because I still think, while I thought he played very well the other day, and once he got really going, and that drive before the end of the half, I think really sparked everything for him. I'm not sure that the accuracy is there, and I have a funny feeling that you would be potentially getting much shorter time of possession drives. If you went this direction, it would be, in my opinion, less consistent. So I think right now, just thinking about this against a much better defense that they're going to play, I don't think you want your defense on the field a ton against a Dunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. I don't think you want that. So I have a feeling that the O would change in that way if it goes this week, that they may ask Cliff to ramp it down a little bit, get in huddles more often, try to stay in rhythm, but much less of the up tempo. I don't think you take it out, but I don't think you leave it in like they have, which is they have been running this to perfection. That would concern me with him moving forward.
I mean, the good point or counterpoint, or I guess co-point with that would be, it doesn't matter who's been running the ball. We talked about it yesterday. They had about 150 yards through running backs, and then it was over 200 yards when you throw in Jayden and Mariota's yards on top of it. So the good part about that is they've been able to run the ball, and it hasn't mattered who's actually back there as well. So I'm with you on that. I think that's probably a good way to try to keep things afloat, mainly because the running game has worked in every single game. Just about. They've rushed. Have they not rushed for 100 yards at some point?
Just the Ravens game.
Okay, but still,
the Ravens game. But they also they threw the ball 35 times and ran it 18 times. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. So
and Robinson didn't play.
Right. So every single game they've had all of their running backs and the quarterbacks go off. Essentially, that's a good way to kind of counterbalance a offense that's not going to be as high octane.
It may not, listen, it may not, the way I think about it now too is it may not be huddles because they're just kind of not doing that. It could be this faux slow though, where they stay out of a huddle, but they take their time running every play. Either way, I actually think with Mariota under center in this game, if that's the way it goes, and we won't know, till late in the week, that's how I would think about it a little bit. I think they need to slow it down. Mariota was terrific in what was, I would call, his real debut, because he came in mop-up time against Cleveland, but in his real debut, I thought he was terrific the other day. But that defense that they played was missing 6 or 7 starters, isn't a top-end group. Well, they were actually a year ago. People don't remember this. They had the number 1 draft pick, and they had a top 5 defense. That's insane. That actually happened last year. Anyway, they came back. They're missing all their people, and it showed. And it showed this year, and it showed against them. And I don't want to take anything away from what the offense did, because it's amazing when the backup quarterback comes in. You score 30 anyway. But I feel like on this one, you might want to slow it down. The inaccuracy that he's proven throughout his career, I think it just lends me to believe, take the gas just a touch, even if it's the faux slow situation where you don't go into a huddle, you pretend like you're going to go up tempo, but you kind of don't. And you extend the drives a little bit that way, because just constant 12 play, 4-minute drive, 4 or 5 minute drives like they've had with Daniels throughout this year feels like you're asking for a few extended possessions for the Bears. And I don't want to go that way this weekend with their receivers for sure.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to do that either. And especially because their offense is actually rolling now. They've actually, over the last 3 weeks, 3 games, have been really, really good. And those weapons have all started to get more and more involved. You don't want to keep giving, Caleb possessions. And you touched on it on my show yesterday. That guy, Caleb, is going to come into this game motivated no matter who's playing. So you kind of have to watch out how that offense is going to start rolling too.
Yes. I'll be interested to hear what he has to say tomorrow. He's coming home. It was a coin flip away from him being here, really. I think he knows that. How does he really feel about where he wanted to be? He'll probably never share that, but I bet he gets asked that question, revisit that idea again. We all know that the reason why anybody considered going a different direction was his personality. And I just, for what I know and know of him, there's just no way this is really, really, really big deal to him, whether he plays Jayden or not. Because if he loses to Washington without Jayden out there, it's going to reflect on him, even though it really shouldn't. And if he loses to Jayden and he does play, especially hurt, he's going to get a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of narratives. The Bears picked the wrong guy, all that type of stuff. It's a big deal for him. It's going to be, and I can already tell from his personality that he wants to be great. He doesn't want to be questioned in his greatness. And this is a first real stand up and look in the mirror and see if the Bears got the right guy and show everybody there that you really should have been the number one overall pick, because Daniels is the front runner to be the rookie of the year, not him. So I want to see how he plays, but I think he's going to be extremely motivated this weekend to kind of show people that the Bears got it right and that he's the guy and that he's the future for them. So we'll see what happens this weekend.
It's also funny with that point too. I feel like this is also one of those situations where the Bears fans are talking about this way more than we are here. Like, I've gotten that sense for the last, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, once he won his first rookie of the week, that they think it's a big deal when he gets snubbed, even though it's a fan vote thing. You have no control, literally no control over who wins that thing. But Bears fans are the ones that are constantly bringing up or trying to dismiss what Jayden does. Whereas here in Washington, we're like, we're happy, guys. We have our franchise guy. We don't care.
We don't
care that we drafted him second. We don't care that he's better or worse than Caleb.
I think we know we got our guy. Like, it was so obvious from the get-go that it's like, whew, glad we didn't take that Drake May, dude. You know?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Man, we weren't getting Caleb. And, I've said this a million times. I'm like, I want him if we can get him. Like, I don't care about the fingernail polish and the whatever he wears. Like, I see how he plays. I'm like, he's got special talent. I want him. And he's from here. And I'm like, it's just so poetic to bring him back here and be, the franchise quarterback here. But now that I've seen who we have picked, I'm like, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
I'm happy with this guy. This guy is the best quarterback we've had in a very, very, very long time. We've talked about finding a franchise quarterback. We found him, so you're right. It's Chicago's the one that's talking about this because, they had the choice. We didn't.
That's right.
They had the choice. And that's where the problem comes in, because Daniels has looked so good that Caleb, who's been good, but not like this, has them going, did we make a mistake?
Right. They're starting to wonder if, they're doing the old looking over there going, oh, wait a minute. They might have a guy better than ours. But at the same time, Caleb has already shown he's got the goods. Like, you'll be fine. It might just develop a touch slower, if anything. But yeah, it's definitely a topic that I think Chicago's talking about more than we are here.
So for both of these teams and for Washington in general too, the landscape keeps opening up, in the NFC for a playoff run. Last night, let's see, Tampa Bay loses. They lost Mike Evans to a hamstring injury. We'll have to see how severe it is. And then at the end of the game, in a game where they're down 10, under 2 minutes to go, and they're just trying to rally to score to make it close, Chris Godwin gets hurt, and it looks bad. It was bad injury. It looks like he broke his leg or ankle or something, and he's probably going to miss a lot of time. And then, of course, the media flips out because they go, the game was over, and they say, why would you have your starters out there? And then I would sit there and say back to you, they were down 10 with a minute and a half to go. Did you want them to give up? Because that's what you're suggesting. You're suggesting we just give up. And I don't know. I think if they did that, I think you would have flipped out on Bowles and said, why didn't you have Godwin out there to try to win? We've seen crazy things happen. So I didn't understand the questioning. It's terrible. It happened. It's awful. It happened in a 10-point game with under 2 minutes to go and no timeouts and very little chance of a comeback happening. But I've seen crazy crap happen in this league. I have no issue with him being out there. I don't know why anybody would even question for a second why he was out there. They weren't down 30 points with 2 minutes to go. They were down 10. And they had the ball at midfield. So I don't get it. I don't get the complaints about it. It's terrible. It happened. I wish it didn't happen to him. And it looks really bad. But I don't question the decision of him being out there. And I don't know why anybody did after it happened.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. You try to win games, not to mention Tampa was actually chipping away. They scored, got an onside kick, scored again. They didn't get 2 in a row because who gets 2 onsides in a row? But they made it close in those last 7 minutes, essentially. Also, these guys get paid to play. You can't just bench them all the time. I know he's an older player, but I don't knock the Bucks for playing him for this one. And I mean, like you said, it's a 10-point game. Crazier things have happened in the NFL than a 10-point lead being evaporated within the 2 minutes. I'm not flipping out about it. It was terrible luck, though, that they have their 2 main wide receivers go out in that game, though.
Right. So now they're 4-3. So they have a worse record than us suddenly. They're slipping in a wrong direction. Somebody's got to win that division, but they're slipping in a wrong direction. Now they have serious injuries. And then the Niners, who have been like the juggernaut. Debo, unfortunately, is in the hospital, apparently with pneumonia. So I don't know how long that's going to last. Ayuk's out for the year, torn ACL. We don't know when McCaffrey's coming back. Purdy looked awful the other day. Their defense has lost a couple of their parts. They're not as formidable as they were. They've blown a couple of big leads. Their record is bad. They are beelining for missing the playoffs, like beelining for it. Again, they're very fortunate they're in a division where nobody's running away with it, but we're staring down weird outcome here. Like Arizona or Seattle somehow steals a bad division this year, which didn't look on paper to be a bad division, but the Rams are just kind of average hanging in there and they could turn it around. But these guys are going the wrong way. So this is yet another example of Washington's got a real open road here. The teams that we thought were going to be really good, the Buccaneers are now hovering around 500 and just had a terrible night with injuries. And the 49ers are busted up, don't look anything close to the same, aren't getting some of these stars back at all. If their season goes completely sideways, McCaffrey won't come back. Like, they're not going to risk him to come back to play for a team that can't win. So it's just opening up here for teams like Washington and Chicago, for that matter, that you could see a real pathway to getting into the playoffs, wild card or division.
The whole entire NFC North is on the table right now. I mean, four could make the playoffs.
It's possible, yes.
To the 49ers, too. That franchise feels like it's about to be really wonky. They paid all those guys. Remember, like the week before the season, it started coming out that the ownership didn't like how much money they were spending, and everyone was kind of like,
"Yes,
what are you talking about? You're winning. Who cares?" Now, all those.
They were right, actually. I would have traded Ayuk. I said that at the time. I would have traded him because I think he's good, not great. I'm not perceiving anything like this ever would have happened, but you just have to make choices. When you have this many good players, you're paying this many guys, you have to make choices. That was my opinion. I would have traded him to somebody.
Yeah, but my point there is like they're just spending on the salary cap like everyone else. Like there's different forms of bitching about the salary. You're running an NFL team, so if you're spending up to the salary cap while you're a contender, I don't know what you're bitching and complaining about. Like, are you mad that your team is good and winning? And now we've had kind of the worst case scenario happen, right? Purdy doesn't have these weapons, and he looks terrible without them. And so I think things are about to get wonky because they're going to have to start discussing whether they're going to pay him or not. And they're going to look at this film and go, do you want to pay him? Because without all these guys, he's not that good.
Right. So, are you going to give him $50 million a year? Right. And then all of a sudden you're making other decisions about people like this. It is going to get weird. We'll see. All right. One more quick thing from last night. I'll reiterate this. I saw them in person. The Ravens are back beelining towards a run at the Super Bowl. I don't know that their team defensively is as good as it was a year ago. I believe they will get better. I will buy into that. But they have the superpower of the NFL. They actually barely used Derrick Henry last night and still ended up with 41 points. And they played some bite in the middle of the game where John Harbaugh goes, we didn't bring him in here to run him 30 times a game. Maybe we'll do it every once in a while. They played a really good team on the road. And they played game maintenance with him in the middle of the season, knowing they're going to need him later, and were confident enough to know that they were going to score on them anyway. They're heading this way. I know the Chiefs are undefeated, and until they beat them in the playoffs, I guess I'm not going to believe it because they're probably going to play them again at one point. It's like, because who's going to catch the Chiefs, right, in the AFC West? Nobody. So they look like they're going to steal this division, short of Pittsburgh having some kind of unusual run here. They're beelining to play each other again. So I guess until they beat them, I don't know. But I watched them last week in person, and I went, that's a Super Bowl team. Like, they got a couple of things on their team that's literally unstoppable. It's like the Eagles a couple of years ago with their run game. Their defense is just going to get better. Last year, they missed it. It was a bad window to miss. This one, I got a funny feeling they're going to end up there this year.
No, I'd agree. And then there was a quote from Troy and Joe Buck last night where they were talking to Henry, and Henry basically said, I don't even really watch film to like read defenses. I watch film to see who's trying on defense. And I was like, oh God. I was like, that's sicko mode. Like, I don't like, there's no other way to describe that than that. Like, that dude doesn't even care what you do. He's going to try aiming for the dudes that don't want the smoke.
That's right.
I want to say it was Torrey Smith or someone else tweeted last night because someone else tweeted that out, and he was like, "Can you imagine what he's about to do in December when teams have quit for like 2 weeks? Like, it's gonna be dumb what they do later on in the season once they get some of these teams that are finished." And when they're talking about that, and we're not halfway through the season, yeah, it means Henry even knows as well, kind of what's up.
If you're listening to the radio show or listening to the podcast, you will hear London Fletcher and myself next as I give you a segment of the Booth Review podcast that I do with the Commanders every Monday. So you'll hear our thoughts mainly on Marcus Mariota and what he did in the game. If you're watching on YouTube, you will not see that. Be right back. Brad Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. It has been months, and I just have not brought up the Wizards at all. But for good reason.
Why are you now? Why are you now? There's no point.
I agree. There is no point. Like after their GM did a press conference, I saw it, the whatever media day press conference, and basically said, you will see glimpses of the future if you watch this year, but not a specific future, like not next year, like at some point
Phase
in
one
the future.
Of four. One of four.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
At some point in the future, what you will see this year will be things you'll remember as signs of progress and growth and winning in the future. I went, oh, I'm out, guys. Like, and you're basically telling me, like, this year I might see some third corner moment from Bilal against the Timberwolves in January that I'll bank and remember for down the road because he made some play on the wing defensively. Like, no thanks. Anyway. They did because they made news. They signed Corey Kispert to the Denny deal, which I thought was really funny when they're trading that. Like, they just gave him a deal that they're going to trade in a year, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. I saw this extension and went, well, that's nice. That'll be very tradable down the line because extensions mean nothing for the Wizards these days. It just means they have their assets and they can extend them out and basically go, yeah, if we don't want to trade you, we can trade you in the next 2 years if we want to do that. I've never, this is really funny. I don't know if you feel the same way as me. I don't know if I've ever seen a team lately say we've extended somebody and we go, don't care. But like literally no feelings about it because it's like, you're going to move them or you're not. But yeah, I'm not getting attached still, even though you signed up for a 4-year extension.
Yes. They protected his rights at a number they can move to a contender at a later date.
Yes.
Period. Yeah. That's all that one is. Right. If they ever extend Bilal, then I'll believe it. That's for the future, the signs of the future of whenever that's going to happen, guys. I've never seen a team that is, I appreciate the honesty of it, but I've never seen a team basically just go, look, we're really going to stink. Okay. But you're going to see every once in a while, some guy's going to make some move and you're going to go, yeah, man, that's why we're going to be 60-22 in 4 years. Like, okay, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like I am torn on this because I've told you for years I hated how the Wizards middled. Like if they're gonna tank, freaking tank. And that's what they're doing. Like I need to acknowledge they're doing the right thing here. But why there has to be like a little bit of a marketing arm on tanking by being like, this is phase 1 of 4. And we haven't laid the foundation yet. It's like, guys, I know you're gonna suck. Just stop. Like don't give me this. Like just say you're gonna suck and I'll take the word.
Yeah, when things slow down, I will go on a rant about how they message this team because it's just they think the way they're messaging this is the right way to do it, and it's the opposite, and they don't know it, and they need to get out of their bubble. And it, like, I don't know, maybe they sell out all the tickets and they don't care, but like, I'm telling you, what you're saying, how you go about it, how guarded you are about everything, how sensitive you are about everything. It's ridiculous. It's transparent. It's like you guys are in a bubble that is nobody else is in. Like, guys, come out of the darkness and join us, and we can talk about this like intelligently and confidently, and not in the way you go about it. They are so hyper protective of what they think they need to protect. It's really, I don't have time for it today. But actually, we're so hot down there in Ashburn that I don't even want to bother with it at this point because, in years past, I'd have to regenerate some hope about the Wizards season because the Commanders were going the wrong way quick under Ron. These days, I'll see you when I see you in January, guys, especially since you're telling me none of these games matter except for development, as if we have some AAU team here. Like, I can't handle it.
Yeah, the other part of this too is like this goes a little bit about how, like, you know, the Commanders under Snyder would operate, where it's like, guys, I have enough bad memories banked. I don't need to bank these moments in useless seasons. I got enough of those. You guys haven't been relevant in a long time. Like, I got those Gilbert years and I got those John years.
Yeah.
That's all I got. I don't care. I don't care about those Nick Young, JaVale McGee, Andre Bloch, Jan Vesely, Darius Songaila years. Like, I'm good. I don't need any more of those. So, no, I will not bank those and save those for later of why we might be a 50-win team one day.
Tomorrow, remind me, because I don't have time again. Ted got that. I'll talk about that with Monumental and what that all means, because I'm trying to figure out what the deal is, but I'll talk about that. But since we only have a minute, Caps are playing tonight. They get the Flyers up in Philly. We got
Caps have played very well their last 3 games. Gave up a lot of goals on Saturday. Give me a Caps. This is going to be a weird one. They play the Philly. They play the Flyers tonight at 6:00. Then they turn around and play them here tomorrow at 7:30. Just give me a 1-1 record after those 2 games. They'll beat them once. I don't know if it'll be tonight or tomorrow.
I'm not a fan of these home and home hockey things.
It is what it is. I'm a fan of the
baseball, guys. I'm not a fan of it.
I'm a fan of the time tonight. They're part of the Frozen Frenzy, so they start things off at 6:00, and then every 15 minutes, every team is in action. So until 6:00 until 11:00 tonight, every team plays.
So this is the smartest thing the NHL has done in years.
They did it last year, but they didn't really have much marketing behind it. This year they're trying, but it's a Tuesday in the middle of the NFL season. I said you should.
What's Hansen doing tonight? Is he available to hook us up on this one?
He said he was going to do, or not him, but they said they were going to do at some point a like NHL red zone thing. I don't know if that's tonight or what, but yeah. So they're in action at 6, and then every 15 minutes another game goes off until 11. So basically 5 hours of nonstop hockey starts at 6.
I'm losing my mind, Joe. Every minute there's something different, Joe. I'm hallucinating, Joe.
Stop.
All right, I like this idea. I'm into it. All right, see y'all tomorrow. Brad Buster Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.